Hey guys, Savage Joy here tonight with Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined with Allison Campolo. She is in Texas right now. She's running for Senate District 10. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Allison. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Texas is definitely the biggest state I have on here. I mean, I have had so many Texans that are running. It's pretty awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, the woman who helps me schedule is in Texas, so I think that might have something to do with it.
Maybe a little bias, but a good bias.
But shout out to Claudia, by the way. She helps me so much because doing this 3 to 4 times a week, I couldn't do it without her help, for sure. Yes. So you are actually a biomedical research scientist, which you are definitely the first I've had on my show. What exactly does that entail in your daily career?
In my day-to-day life?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the day. So right now, since I'm kind of on the tail end of my PhD, it's a lot of writing and data analysis. On a normal day, if you're at the lab bench, it's experiments all day and then experiments all night, and you end up working an 80 or 100-hour week, as any scientist of any level of their career can tell you. It tends to be a full-time job if you're actually doing the research. And then you kind of go through these phases, right, of like sometimes you're doing bench work nonstop for weeks on end, and sometimes you're writing nonstop and doing all the data analysis, crunching those numbers that you've worked so hard to get. So right now I'm in the data crunching and writing part, so I have a lot more flexibility with my schedule, which is a good thing when you're running for state senate, for sure.
I would say. So is that something you could still, lack of a better term, do on the side, like in some respect?
Yeah, so the weird, crazy part about the Texas State Senate and the Texas State Legislature is that it only meets every 6 months, every other year. So a huge majority of our legislators maintain normal jobs. There's some folks that are independently wealthy, or the majority of their income is just from sitting on boards or whatever, but a lot of the legislators maintain regular jobs. A lot of them are lawyers. They can afford to call their practice for 6 months every other year. So absolutely, research will be there. And I'm looking forward to working with a lot of research institutions in North Texas to keep going, whenever I can, whenever the legislature is not in session.
One of our buddies, Russell, he wants to know what field your research is in. It's veterinary, correct? Or
yes, I research diabetes, so I'm actually really lucky that I get to research metabolic disease for both humans and animals. So half of my projects work specifically with animals like horses, and half of them work specifically with things that translate more to humans. So I get to do everything. It's pretty great.
That's amazing. Anything with animals is a dream, really.
Very cool. And the thing that a lot of folks don't think about is, we all know that diabetes, we all know obesity is on the rise in humans, which causes diabetes. The same is true for also it's true for dogs, cat, horses. All of our pets are having the same issue. So metabolic disease is such an important field now for both our veterinary species and for our human counterparts, right?
Absolutely. That's so true. I know 2 people who have to give their dog insulin and stuff like that. It's incredible. You don't think about, those things with animals, but yes, you definitely do a good job there, because that's, I can't, I'm one of those people, I have no kids, so my rescue dog is my baby. So,
Aww. I understand that.
She's at my now, so.
Yeah, my husband and I don't have children either, but we do have the fur-based. We have 2 dogs and we have a cat, and so I feel you there. They become your little house buddies.
Yes, absolutely. What actually got you into the idea of running for Senate? What actually, is it something you considered a while?
Yeah, so I actually have grown up in a really political family. Politics is always at the forefront of most of our conversations. And my dad started running for county judge in 2002. So for the last 15 years, I got not only involved in his race, but in so many other judicial races around DFW. That's sort of like, I'm 30 now, so that was when I was 15. So since I was a teenager, I've been involved with politics, local politics, and how to run campaigns and how to volunteer and be active in campaigns and local politics. So I have always kind of had the notion that I wanted to run for something. And this woman that I want to unseat in our Texas State Senate, who I find to be a particularly egregious legislator, when I realized she was up for election this year, then I knew, for every candidate, it's not exactly an ideal time. There's never a perfect time to run for office. But when I realized that I'd be finishing my PhD at the same time as she was running, I said, I can't let this opportunity pass me by. I need to run for this seat. So I went ahead and jumped in.
Awesome. I was reading some of her backstory. Doesn't sound like somebody I'd like. And I love how outspoken you are about your feelings on her. Too many times I interview candidates who are, have that trepidation, and I'm like, look, you have to tell it how it is. There's a way, don't curse, don't call names, but you have to be honest. Make people understand what is wrong with voting for them. That's part of your job, lack of a better term.
Absolutely. You're not just running to show people that, oh, wow, I'm great, I'd be a good candidate, but why is that other candidate or why is that elected official bad? Why do we need to fire them? And there's absolutely no reason to pull any punches here, especially when we have folks voting on our behalf and it affects our daily lives in so many different aspects. There's absolutely no reason to sugarcoat the way we feel about the way somebody votes in office.
Absolutely. How long has she been in that position?
She's a first-term senator, so she's only been in for 4 years because we do 4-year Senate terms. So this would be her first re-election bid.
Oh, all right. How many people and she's a Dem or?
She's a Republican.
I honestly couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. Like, that's how bad it was. I was like, wait, she's kind of like Nancy Pelosi in some ways. I'm not sure.
Are you talking about my primary opponent or my Republican opponent? Because there's a Republican incumbent who is a terrible woman, and then I do have one primary opponent.
What's your
primary
opponent's name?
Beverly Powell.
Okay, yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, she is a pretty moderate person, and she's a fine woman. Just, I need to be. I feel the need to stand up for what I believe in and not pull any punches, like we talked about, and really commit to the things that I think our communities need and deserve. And she runs towards more middle of the road. So we're two very different Democrats running for this office.
That's what we need. If you look at running Dems, we need different kinds of Dems than the ones we have now.
Absolutely.
After what happened in 2016, were you automatically set to run Dem, or did you consider independent, or what was your feeling on that?
I've never considered running as an independent, and I know a lot of folks might consider it. I know that is a more comfortable decision for a lot of people, but it just never was right for me. I've always really strongly identified as a Democrat, and when I read their platform, that really aligns with my values. And there's, I find nothing wrong with their stated goals and ideas. So I've always been a pretty blue Democrat, but. Absolutely, especially some of the things that we highlighted in 2016 and the things we continue to find out about our Democratic Party. There are so many opportunities for improvement within the party. And so absolutely, myself and so many other candidates running as Democrats are very much looking forward to help reshape the party and bring back a party that a lot of people can trust a little bit more.
Do you think that the Democrats, as in already in office, not just, us, but the people already there, do you think that they really comprehend how bad they're doing at things? Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like the way they're behaving is going to guarantee Trump 2020. They are, they're only attacking Republicans. They're not saying what they're for. Yeah. They don't promote anything for we the people. They're just anti-Trump. They're not listening to us. They're not listening to, we want Medicare for all. We want, net neutrality, things like this. They're, like 55 Dems voted with Trump the other day. And then, the $70 billion war budget increase with Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker and Kamala Harris all signing on. Like these are people they're talking about running. And it's not going to be good because a lot of progressives are not going to go for that.
Agreed. I've been really appreciating how big my Facebook feed is today from the stuff last night, because you have the Joe Kennedy feed and then you have the Bernie Sanders feed, and half of the people seem to really like him, Joe Kennedy, and then half the people clearly don't for a lot of things. And it's so mixed. It's so mixed. And the answer to your question is I don't think that they obviously are very committed to whatever their plan is. And there is so much discontent in the Democratic Party as far as we, the voters, the people. I don't stop having a way to rectify that yet. And absolutely not. It's still, everybody's like, we just need to move on from 20. Have so many things actively frustrating people, like when we have top-level Senate or congressional Democrats voting with the big pharma industry and against things that would actually help our communities, that's going to do nothing but continue the problem. And so, I don't see the top-down leadership having a solution or working towards one right at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only hope we have is getting fresh people like yourself in there, just getting people who are not, establishment, 1% who have already been there and literally done nothing, but they're just a name or they're rich or what have you. That is the only hope that we have to change things around. Do you deal with a lot of people who say, no, I won't vote Dem, period? I don't care who it is. I won't vote.
I deal with that from the Republican side, but as far as from within the progressive base or liberal base around here in DFW, I don't actually, which is a little heartening. We do have some third-party candidates that are gearing up to run. So in Texas, our primary the main two parties are already set and geared, and we're going to vote in our primaries on March 6th. But the third parties have a little bit different system, so they're still kind of cementing all of their candidates. So that's all to say. We don't really have that many running, although there are some. And a lot of folks, I have not heard many who say, I absolutely won't vote Democrat. Now, we do have some folks who say, I won't vote for that Democrat, even if they're one of the only ones running in the area or for a certain seat because of the way they talk about issues or the way they've acted in the past. But I think almost all the voters here and the activists here are trying to keep an open mind for every candidate individually, which is really nice. I think that's absolutely the way it should be.
No, you guys actually have open primaries, correct?
We don't have I don't think what most people would consider a genuine open primary, but you don't have to register as a certain party and vote only in that party. You can flip-flop. You can only vote for one of the primaries at a time, but you can pick which one every time. You're not a registered Democrat or registered Republican.
That's awesome. I'm in Pennsylvania, and
You're registered?
What's that?
You have to register as a party? Do you get locked in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a registered independent, and I Dem exited, and I'm like, okay, so never every local election or the presidential one or whatever. I vote every 2 years, every primary and everything. And but I have to like switch for a day if the candidate I want is a Dem, and then like switch.
Oh, does it allow you to do that? Can you do it that fast?
You can do it online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
What a pain, though. Like,
I know. I'm like, it's so crazy. And then New York, actually, their primary is in May or June, and they have to register by October.
holy cow.
That's why so many people didn't know about Bernie. So they didn't switch from independent, and then they couldn't vote. So that you're talking like 8 months beforehand.
Forever in advance. Yeah. That is insane. What if you're, so in Texas, you have to register 30, like just to vote in the election, since we don't vote as a party, just to vote in the election, you have to be registered 3 days in advance of the election date. What about in New York? I mean, you have to register 8 months in advance, or holy cow. I mean, that's
since Burns impressive. Independent, they stayed independent, but wait, he's a Democrat, and now we can't vote for him because 8 months ago we didn't know who he was, and so it was like you're being penalized. So thankfully, since I was in PA and everything, that worked out for me. But I do know several people in New York who knew nothing about that.
Bonkers! That's bonkers! I can't believe that. That is so suppressive. I am shocked that New Yorkers haven't thrown a huge fit. Gosh, I can't really hear about that. Oh, they do? Yeah. Gosh, I never hear about that.
It's so undemocratic. It's incredible.
It is. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I'm thankful we don't have that system. I mean, I thought 30 days was bad, but good grief. That's nuts.
Ours was 30 days too, and even that seems a lot because people still might not have their minds made up at that point. So how do you feel about voting rights? I know you do touch on it on your page. Do you believe in paper ballots and open primaries and things like that?
Absolutely. So number one, paper ballots all the way 100% be, the best option. And obviously everyone here is an environmentalist, but that is, I mean, genuinely the only way I can think of to limit, voting errors, or intentional or unintentional at the ballot box, and having a track record. And then to answer the open primaries question, I was just I was at a panel with one of our state legislators, and it is an interesting discussion to talk about how polarizing it is to have these sort of closed primaries. And this Texas state legislature is absolutely a very good case study for how, and because some of our states are so gerrymandered, and Texas is one of them too, just how damaging that is to your state legislature, because many of the Republicans in office, while I don't agree with them 100%, are rational, discerning people, but they know that they have to win their primaries, and the people who vote in a primary are a very small base of people. So to force them to have to run or to vote as extreme as possible in order to retain that seat is just, I mean, it's so toxic to our system. And obviously that same is true for Democratic areas too, but with Texas being predominantly Republican, it's predominantly that problem. I mean, anyway, so yeah, an open primary would be significantly improved.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we don't... Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, California alone, the way that the, Hillary volunteers had people with Bernie shirts and stuff vote on no party preference paper ballots, and over 3 million of them wound up in cardboard boxes and were never counted. 3 million. Yes. There's photos, there's video footage, everything. I mean, it's incredible. They were coming in, people in Bernie shirts and buttons were coming in, and they were putting like a little, like a highlighter mark, like on the top of the page.
The ballot, yeah.
And so they knew to give them like the no party preference ballot, and they had to get this whole team of hundreds of people to recount all of the no preference ballots, and it went on for weeks, and then they never were counted anyway.
Wow, wow, wow. So in your experience, I mean, are paper ballots more something that you're in favor of in general? Or are you more
Absolutely. They just should have been the right ones. They were purposely given. Yeah, because I don't know why a progressive state like California would be a closed primary, but yeah, that's why they were saying we don't want their votes to count, so we're just going to do this. And so things like that, I think they should be video recorded. I think that they should be paper. We saw everything this year, so it was like, I mean, it was, there's videos of like people pushing Bernie's name on the machine and it jumps to Hillary's. Like, it was crazy.
I mean, it's like a Parks and Rec, voting machine. It seems like a cartoon at that point, right? Like,
seriously.
That's corrupt. That's just crazy.
I know. Yeah. And it's like, look, if you really thought she'd win, you wouldn't need to go to that length. But anyway.
Yeah, but here we are. I mean, and that's kind of like, so again, Texas is very gerrymandered, and like, if we can't get an open primary, the least we can do is draw our districts fairly, because then you wouldn't have to run the most extreme voting history or the most extreme candidate in order to win that race, right? You could still have a good moderate Republican or whatever in every district. That just actually votes the will of the people, that can genuinely represent their constituents. What a concept. So we have multiple angles to attack the same problem, but agreed, an open primary would be ideal, for sure.
Absolutely. Being in Pennsylvania, we just actually had our state redistricted, and it was actually a really interesting process to kind of hear about. So that's kind of in the works right now with our legislative people in PA. I'm in Harrisburg, so I'm really close to, I get to go knock on their doors all the time and be a pain in their ass about stuff. It's very convenient. They know me.
What's happening? So are your districts going to be redrawn in time for the 2018 elections?
They are, yes.
Oh. How does that work? A candidate or an official gets drawn out of their district mid-cycle?
Yeah, that's incredible. All I know is it has to be done in by February. Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's going to be done in the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah, I know. Somebody's working overtime.
Yeah, no kidding. Texas was supposed to, we thought we were going to have to redraw them back in September, and then our governor asked the Supreme Court to put a stop to that. So don't know. I mean, if it had been done back in September, more than a year before the election, that'd be one thing. But now in February, that's crazy. I mean, I can only imagine what all the officials and candidates are stressing out about right now.
Oh, gosh. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What, so as far as campaigning, because of your kind of essentially what we would consider an open primary, do you also reach out to people who are Republicans or Libertarians, Greens, just to kind of see if you can have some common ground on things and maybe win over their vote?
Yeah, so, right now I'm in the primary season, so I do need to win a Democratic primary. So the huge majority of my messaging and the folks I'm talking to when I block walk, or the folks I'm calling on the phone or writing letters to, bless you, is, those are all folks who have voted in the Democratic primary several times. Those are folks I'm targeting because I know they'll come to the polls. But absolutely, we're very happy to be able to coordinate with some of the local activist groups that have really geared up a year or two to help reach out to new voters or to help get people registered or so on and so forth. And we do get a lot of messages from Republicans predominantly who are very disenchanted with their current state leadership. And they are looking for somebody else to be able to vote for, not even if it's not in the primary, but in November. And they, you can tell they really, at the core, they don't want to vote for a Democrat. That's something they've never had to do, but they just hate the incumbent. She doesn't represent them well. And so I do kind of feel for them. They're in kind of a pickle, but it gives me an opportunity to really talk to people and find all of our common ground, which is best, as I'm sure you know. Most, we actually all agree on a lot of things. Most rational people agree on mostly what we need and what we want for our communities. And it's just how we get there is the dividing factor. So, right now we're talking mostly liberals, Democrats, progressives, but we'll see after March, after our primary. It'll be an interesting new conversation for sure.
And since I talk to people all over the country, some of them are really interesting. They pick the top two people with the most votes. It doesn't matter if they're both Dem, both Republican, both Green, one Independent. Like, it literally doesn't matter. But in your state, it is just one Dem and one Republican, right?
Yeah, and at least for the primary, we have decided it'll, in March we'll be deciding the two top parties on their primary ballots and get the nomination for your seat with your party. And then after, and I don't remember when when the third parties have to decide their candidates and their nominations, but since they have their own system, anyway, they'll all get sort of decided, filtered out over the next couple months, and then in November, people can vote for whoever they want. And we do have a lot of Green voters, a lot of Libertarian voters in this area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of good things on your platform that I don't always see with a lot of candidates. One of the things that you had on there was disabilities. I very rarely see anything like that. Especially my guest 2 days ago was the first time who's ever brought up mental health, which I think is, with over 30 candidates, I would think that would be more talked about. But so I definitely appreciated your section on disabilities. What exactly are your hopes to do with people with disabilities? Why are you passionate about that?
Cool. I will admit to you that it didn't, I do hear about it from time to time, as we all do in our regular activist communities or the folks we're talking to. But really, I was so inspired to put that on there because there's so much outreach. I've had so many people ask me about, my feelings on disabilities and how we're going to treat legislation going forward, folks who might have disability in Texas. And then there's this might be because our state legislature also voted to actively underfund or defund some children's disabilities acts in Texas when we passed our last state budget. So that it really it grew a huge activist outpouring from that. And so at least here in DFW, there's such a strong activist community specifically for folks with disabilities, children and adults both, that it gave me a lot of opportunities to talk to people and find out what's important to them. And so the two topics that I'm hoping to do is to hopefully we keep communities. So, when you have to send somebody to a facility or to another treatment center or away from where they're at home, it usually ends up being more expensive and is, any patient can tell you, or any person with a disability can tell you it's not the preferred option. So we can actually save so far as I can tell from the research, we can actually save quite a bit of money and keep people at home if we just treated them in home, whether that be training somebody within their family to treat them or help them, or if we brought in a specialist to come help care for them. And then we do have state-supported living centers for folks who do need round-the-clock care, who would be more comfortable in a full-time community, but they are, so far, this is actually one of the areas where I don't have a lot of data because there's just not a lot of research done on it, or at least not a lot that I can access, which in itself is a little unnerving. But so far as I can tell, a lot of folks repeatedly say, A, they're very inefficiently run, and B, they are not the most humane centers for folks to be living at full-time especially. And so we could do so much better, both the community and home-based care, as well as improving our state-supported living centers are my two main now. But I'm absolutely not an expert here, and I would love to keep hearing from the community and seeing what else we can do better from the state side.
Absolutely. I work in healthcare, so I see the astronomical prices of going inpatient or things like that. And I just think, oh my gosh, if I were these people, I would rather have home health in a heartbeat. So
Yes.
I totally understand that. That's a really, really good thing to put on your platform.
Yay.
Kudos.
Yay. Good deal. Yeah, and it's also, I'm sure you deal with this too, but in Texas, so we have some programs for folks with disabilities when they're children, and then the minute they turn 18, they age out of this program, even though their disability is not going to go away, or whatever their challenges is certainly not going to just magically disappear at the age of 18. And so if we had some way for folks to gradually phase into a different program or continue their care or whatever it is, that would be a way better option for the folks with disabilities and their families both.
Absolutely. I also saw on your platform, on your website, which is basically one of the most important things, campaign finance reform. Are you basically, how should I word this? Are you against taking any corporate money from super PACs or anything like that? Are you just taking individual donations?
So I have a two-pronged answer for that. And number one is that in Texas, there's actually no financial caps for donations to state legislative candidates or state legislators. There's just not. So, we could get a $100,000 or $1 million check from Charles Koch or Bill Gates or Elon Musk. I mean, it wouldn't matter. You can have unlimited donations from any source. Which is unlike the federal system, right? So, of course, in the federal system is kind of why PACs and super PACs were born. Is we did put that cap on there, that $2,700 individual cap to federal candidates. And PACs, of course, are not inherently evil. There's lots of great PACs. And like in our neighborhood, there's Indivisibles, and there's the Sierra Club, and there's Democratic Women's Clubs, and those are all PACs, and I would be honored to take their endorsement or donations. But then, of course, we have the super PAC who are then further exceeding those donation levels and getting around things through a lot of loopholes, which are really inappropriate. So that said, they're in the Texas state legislative race, there's really no reason to say I'm against PACs or I'm against super PAC, because, any individual can write you an unlimited amount of money. So then that's to say, no, I'm not saying I'm definitely not taking money from PACs or super PACs, because that wouldn't actually super much matter in my race. But what I'm trying to stay committed to is just a transparency of where my money is coming from. So if somebody writes me a huge check, I'm happy to put that on my website and say, this person aligns with my goals and my ideals so far as I can tell, and I don't think that this is an inappropriate relationship between donor and candidate. Or if it is inappropriate, then I don't have to take that money, and I'd be happy to refuse it. And so it'll be a lot more individual kind of a screening process versus just a hardline, individuals only and no PACs. And so that's why I try to on my website is maintain that transparency. So I put my filings right directly on my website under a transparency tab, so folks can go and see who exactly is funding me and try to maintain that open communication.
Okay, that's actually interesting. States are so different with their rules.
Yeah.
It's really an educational experience. I noticed you do have a tab also on immigration. We see so much going on with DACA and everything right now. What are your feelings on, what's your take on what's going on? What do you hope to happen?
Oh, well, I hope we can get a Clean Dream Act, yesterday. I think it's ridiculous that we're holding all these people essentially hostage that have been Americans for their life, So we absolutely need to improve our immigration at the federal level. We need to improve the way folks can come here and work and live if they choose to. And at the state level, I don't know if you saw, we passed a bill which we call SB 4, which is our Show Me Your Papers bill. And we basically have tried. It was what they their narrative was that it was a crackdown on sanctuary cities, but it was a pretty racist bill that is almost unenforceable and would penalize police officers for not asking for somebody's papers at any time. It doesn't have to be if somebody's committed a crime or they think they've committed a crime, you could just stop anybody and ask for their papers. And then that police officer, if it was found they didn't ask for their papers, would be penalized. So everybody hated this bill. Police officers hate this bill. Police chiefs hated this bill. All the economic centers hate this bill. But of course, our state legislature still passed it. It is stuck in injunction right now. It's not being acted on, thank goodness. But we in Texas, even at the state level, we have a lot to work on with immigration. So hopefully we can get that bill repealed. And we also have a really cool bill in Texas called the Noriega bill, which has been in action since about the 90s, which allows immigrants to receive in-state tuition if they've been living here at our universities, which is great. Now, unfortunately, our Republican legislators keep trying to repeal it. But I would love to continue to support it, if given the opportunity.
That's awesome. You also talk about marijuana, your stance on that. Did you probably, today they came out with some news about people's records being expunged who have been arrested. Yeah, it was like literally like a blip I got just as I was waiting for you to get on.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's definitely, it was, I almost want to say it was California, where it said that they were getting rid of thousands of people's police records from having marijuana on them. So,
all right.
Yes, it's about time. So it'll be easier for them to get a job and everything like that. Do you guys have like a lot of for-profit prisons and stuff where you are?
Yeah, we do. We really like our for-profit prisons. And because we now essentially border Colorado, we have several Texas cities have made a whole new business off of catching folks driving back from Colorado just to, throw them in jail for XYZ things, which are, in any rational world, they're totally inappropriate to put people in prison for. And we have insane marijuana laws in Texas. But at the very least, and I know this is just a stepping stone, but at the very least, we need to improve our medical marijuana laws in Texas. I think that would be the most tangible thing we can reach for in this state. Right now, one of our local Republican legislators introduced a bill last session, the session before, that approved medical marijuana for exactly one condition. And then they pat themselves on the back that they passed medical marijuana, but that is not really the whole story, So we at least in the next session, I think we could take it to the next step and really at least approve medical marijuana for, the wide range of diagnoses and treatments that is widely already accepted in this country and in other countries too.
Absolutely. I mean, when you see these mothers talking about how they had to move to another state because their 4-year-old girl couldn't get, wouldn't stop having seizures until she tried cannabis oil. And now they have to move to another state for that. It's like, that is just so inhumane and so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And I recently, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the states that have already legalized recreational marijuana, the CBD oil is still a prescription. Like for that extra level of treatment, you still need to go to the doctor, which I think would help a lot of folks feel like a little bit more secure about, yes, you can get this recreational marijuana in this way, but if, for instance, you're prescribing it to an 8-year-old, it would be under physician supervision for that condition and for this hopeful outcome, right? And I think that would help people feel better about it in general.
Right. More safe. Yeah, I totally agree. You also have single payer on your page, which is kind of a litmus test for a a lot of people who are going to be voting.
Yeah.
So can you just kind of explain why you're passionate about that, why you think we should have it?
Totally. So, and I know a lot of pundits in my area are going to say, "Oh, you crazy liberal, this will never happen." But the stepping stone, the most tangible thing we could at least do in Texas would be to expand Medicaid. And if we only expanded Medicaid, we would get an instant $6 billion boost into our budget. We would add 303,000 jobs in the state per year. We'd increase our millions to billions in our tax revenue, real sale, and income growth. It would be an economic, basically, if we said it was an economic package, it would be great. Unfortunately, people don't like the words expand Medicaid, and I think it's really just got a stigma that's holding it back in the legislature. But if we could, of course, I know some other states have tried to do a single payer system without success. I'm not naive to the fact that this is an extremely difficult thing to do at the state level. I would be happier and it would be easier at a federal level. But Texas is a big state. We have the 12th largest economy in the world. And if any state's going to be able to pull off a single payer system at the state level, why not Texas? So, and that, it still wouldn't be easy, but I think we could try to do maybe a gradual system. If we did, phase 1 was 0 to 18-year-olds, phase 2 would be 65 up, phase 3, 18 to 65 or whatever. We could make it a gradual system where everyone benefited. And obviously, as every proponent of single payer knows, your economic benefits would be enormous, as would your medical outcomes, your healthcare outcomes. So, hopefully we can get either at a federal level, great, but if not, I would love to be on the forefront of helping Texas get there if we could.
That's awesome. Are you familiar with what MMT is by chance?
I don't think so.
It's a modern monetary theory. Since you're not running federally, it applies to that, but taxes don't fund spending as far as federally. So you hear the government say a lot, we don't have money for this, so we'll have to cut this if you really want that. And that's not accurate. There is actually enough money to do everything that we need.
Yes.
But as I said, it is definitely on a federal level, but it's definitely worth looking into because it's interesting and it basically shows the dichotomy of how everything actually flows together.
Totally. Yeah, and now that you mention it, somebody did ask me on Facebook once about, when I started running, they were asking me about modern monetary theory, and it was an interesting discussion. Like you said, it went back a lot too well. This is a federal issue. I don't know how the state's going to deal with that, but at least if we're just going to take the basic statement of there's only so much cash and we can't fund the programs we want, like you said, a little bit false, just because part of the problem is we waste so much of our cash that we're not able to fund these programs, which would economically boost our economy anyways. So absolutely, it's kind of we keep putting ourselves in this catch-22 loophole of shooting ourselves in the foot, right, by inappropriately funding things. But hopefully we'll get there.
Absolutely. It looks like you definitely have some fans in the comments, which is good. Texas needs you, Allison. That's what it says. That's awesome.
Thank you.
It looks like some people are talking about, I think Bezos and looks like Amazon came out with something today talking about how they were going to merge. Did you see anything about that? It was, let me see if I can find that comment. Okay, here it is. Amazon, Berkshire, and JP Morgan Chase. Healthcare company might be the perfect industry disruption. Apparently, Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and the guy from JP Morgan are going to be in a healthcare provision. This was announced yesterday or today.
And what is their goal? What would they want to do?
To make money. They would want, basically, they're going to be taking over provisions of people's health care. They're going to basically have the okay of what they can charge. Yeah. I mean, because the richest people need to make more money. I mean, why would they? I mean, us, that's just 99%ers, screw us. Who cares?
Yeah.
They don't even need insurance. Like, they can afford to pay for their own shit. Like,
right.
It's bananas.
Yeah. What I repeat often, and I know you probably do too, like the privatization of education, healthcare, and prisons is absolutely appropriate and leads to a lot of systemic problems that we have now. And I'm never going to say capitalism is all bad or privatization is all bad. It has its merits in a lot of areas and industries, but these three are not it. Like, you cannot make these profit-making machines and expect everyone to make good decisions all the time. And so now that we've seen in the last 12 to 15 years these massive monopolies happening at a really rapid rate. Obviously, these monopolies have been kind of conglomerating over time, but recently, of course, it's become a little bit worse and a little bit more alarming. And to have like some of the three richest people in the nation start to take it over is a little disconcerting. Maybe they would magically make really good decisions, and it would be great. But I mean, we'll see.
That stuff. It's like every day. It's just like, can we just get one day where we could just have some sanity? Just one day.
No, not currently. Oh
well. You also, and as a scientist, I would hope, but in your platform, you do talk about climate change. What are your goals for the state of Texas in that regard?
Cool. Yeah, that's a good question. So the state of Texas actually, I think most people know who Rick Perry is. He was our previous governor, and he didn't do a lot of great things, but he actually did do a good thing, which was expand our wind program. And now Texas does have the largest wind production in the country, which is really, really cool. And we're really proud of that. But we can keep going, and we can absolutely continue to expand that. And we can absolutely continue to expand our solar program. I might be wrong on this, but I think presently the biggest growing job sector is actually in solar energy production. So one of the things I'm always talking about to folks when I'm on their doorstep is, when I'm talking about climate change, one of my goals is to get folks who are in the oil fields or in the non-renewable resource sectors and provide them with government-funded retraining programs so that nobody has to lose their job over our switch to renewable energies. So given hopefully we can get that retraining program in place, and then if we continue to boost our solar and boost our wind energy programs, I mean, this will be a fantastic energy expansion as well as a fantastic economic expansion, and we can start taking care of our homes a little bit, which is so crucial. So anybody who's probably studied climate science probably knows it's a little bit too late, but we need to keep doing whatever we can do to make a difference, right? So got to keep trying.
Absolutely. We have a viewer named Christopher McMillan. He said that people are losing their homes over privatized road tolls in Texas.
Yeah, tolls is something that's come up recently as a big contentious issue, and I definitely understand. So the problem is this is one of those things that we don't have a clear black and white answer for. The problem is because we have already sunk millions or billions into creating new roads, and we just need to finish out, a little stretch, and then we would have a road, and we've already economically put in so much capital into that area. And the only way for our state or those investors to recoup their money is to make it a toll road. So I know that really frustrates people, and I get really frustrated when I get stuck on toll roads too, and I do understand that. It's just that there's not a clear answer. So some of the things we've talked about that would be possible solutions or compromises would be to continue expanding roads. We have several here in Texas, which you have an option, and I'm sure you do too at where you live, 3 lanes are non-toll and then 1 or 2 are toll, sort of like the way we used to use the HOV lane, but now you just pay for the privilege of not being in traffic, hopefully. But you have the option, right? You're not forced to go on a toll road if you need to get somewhere. Having those additional toll lanes, and a lot of the roads, they've just added those lanes onto an existing highway, so they're not removing current existing lanes, they're just adding them on. That would be a decent compromise if we can do it. And the other part is just that we need folks to stick to their promises. So if you say we're going to open up this new road and it's going to be a toll road for 8 years or 10 years, don't extend that. So a lot of folks get frustrated with a 10-year-old highway, there's now traffic and you're stuck in a toll road. Like, it's a lose-lose situation. So we really need these investors or these owners of these highways to stick to their goals with removing the tolls. And there is opportunity for a combination of powers, right? So if we have private investors adding on these toll roads, and that allows the state to save money and allows us to expand public transit. So Fort Worth, Arlington, Tarrant County, everything that's just west of Dallas County, we have terrible public transit. We have almost non-existent public transit. So if these private investors can help us with expanding these highways, but that allows us to put in more public transit so folks can get where they're going for free or for reduced fares, that's a great compromise. So unfortunately, there's no black and white. No legislator's going to say, I'm definitely not going to vote for a toll road, but we can try to mitigate the terribleness of it.
Interesting. That's a really good question, Christopher. I appreciate that. If there's one thing you want people to walk away from this interview having in their mind about you, what's something you want to leave with them?
That's a great question. I've never had that question. I don't know what to do with that question. Weird. I don't know. But, I go back to when people ask me about my experience, and I haven't held office before. So, of course, I get a lot of questions like, well, how can you possibly know what you're doing? And so since I've been helping out on campaigns since 2002, the one things I do come around from that experience, and I have been on the background where we flipped other districts from Republican to Democratic districts. And that the two main things that have come away from that is that we need to work together and we need to sort of unapologetically push for what we want. So I know everyone in this audience probably knows there's no room for moderation, so I don't need to harp on that or really sell that point. We need to fight for what we need, right? But it's so important to work together. So it's so important to create these coalitions of candidates or with your community or with your networks, and to really embrace what others have to bring to the table. One of the things we actually saw that was so successful with the Doug Jones campaign was the fact that because he was unapologetic in his approach to women's health care or the other progressive goals that he wanted, even in deep red Alabama, that allowed those networks around him to do what they do best and really embrace him as a candidate. That allowed the NAACP or their LULAC chapters or Indivisibles or their Planned Parenthood or whatever to really work their networks as best as they could and embrace him as a candidate and embrace their ability to use their community networks. So, I think those are so important. And one of the things that I've been trying to do as a candidate so far is work with other candidates around me in my area. And I hope that folks continue to do that around the country.
Absolutely. When anybody asks you, well, if you have no experience, why should I vote for you? I would honestly just say, I've experienced being a 99%er. And that's why I'm going to know what I'm doing, because I understand what you guys are going through. That's the best selling point, is that you're one of us.
Absolutely.
One of us.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've had to sell plasma twice a week to make it. So I get it. We have to do what we have to do to get there. And then unfortunately, a lot of our legislators don't have that same experience or have forgotten about that experience if they had it. And I absolutely agree. A lot of quote unquote regular folks are running for office who, only have the experience of being a mom or being a social worker or being a teacher or being a scientist or whatever. That's critical to our legislator and the way our legislative bodies make decisions. And I'm so excited that there's so many regular people running for office. It's very cool.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Allison. You are amazing. I am so excited for you, and I really want you to keep us updated. Tell us how everything's going. The voter registration deadline is February 5th.
Yes, yes. Thank you for the shout out. Yes.
You guys have to get that done like in 5 days.
yeah, don't miss it. And I'm sure like where you are, a lot of our seats have a lot of Democrats running. So it's so important that we vote in our primaries, or Republicans. Some of them have contested primaries too. It's so important that we vote in this primary and pick somebody who's going to represent you the best. Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated this interview, Joy. This is really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Do you want to just give your Facebook, your Twitter, your website, all that fun stuff?
Sure. So basically, if you just search on any platform for Allison Campolo, you'll find me. I'm the only one with my name, I think, in the country. So it's ALLISON, 2 L's in Allison, and Campolo, CAMPOLO. So search me on Facebook. If you Google me, you'll get to my website or Instagram or Twitter, and follow me, retweet, whatever, and shout out, and hopefully I can retweet and follow you too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I have Friday, Tina Liebling, I believe you say her last name. She is running for Minnesota governor. I just talked to Kenneth Mejia from California, the Green candidate. He will be coming on February 16th. Just talked to him today.
That was super cool. I'm so glad to get to interview him. Nice.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. Still gonna do the 3 interviews Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern every week. You guys can catch this. So once more, thank you guys for watching, and thank you so much, Allison, for joining us.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.